You never expect your life to change during an average Tuesday afternoon. It was just supposed to be leg day. I'd been going to the same gym 3 times a week for years. Not because I was obsessed with fitness or anything, but because it kept my mind quiet. After 10 years of marriage to Allison, I'd found peace in the routine. Wake up, kiss her good morning, head to work, gym after, then home for dinner together, usually something she whipped up from one of her cookbooks. We didn't have kids. That was always a conversation delayed for after the next promotion, or after we travel more. But things felt stable. I guess that's why what happened hit me so hard. That Tuesday, I came home around 6 p.m., earlier than usual because I'd cut my workout short. My trainer canceled last minute, and I figured, hey, maybe Allison and I could catch up over wine. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something strange. Her car was parked crooked, like she'd arrived in a rush. Not like her. The living room lights were off. That was odd. Allison always turned them on before sunset, said the house felt too cold otherwise. I stepped inside. Silence. No aroma of food. No sound of music from the Bluetooth speaker she loved. I called her name once, then again. Nothing. I walked toward the kitchen and stopped short when I noticed it, her phone. Sitting face down on the counter, screen smudged, unlocked. She never went anywhere without it. That's when I heard the creak upstairs. The bedroom door wasn't fully closed. There was something about the way it stood slightly ajar that made my stomach tighten. I remember walking slowly, almost like I was hoping I wouldn't hear what I was about to hear. But I did. Voices. Laughter. A man's voice, low and cocky, followed by a soft giggle that used to belong to me. I didn't go in. I couldn't. I walked away. Down the stairs, out the front door, back to my car, like a sleepwalker. I sat behind the wheel for maybe 10 minutes, my fingers trembling as I stared at the steering wheel, wondering what the hell just happened. I drove to the lake. That's where I always went when I needed to think. I parked and watched the water for over an hour, trying to silence the part of me that had already put the pieces together. I didn't need confirmation, I knew. Her laughter wasn't something she gave away easily. And that voice? I recognized it, though I hadn't heard it in that context before. I'd met him. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a square jaw and that sun-etched face that women like Allison always seemed to admire. Firefighter, he'd said, with that effortless confidence. I remember shaking his hand at our block party a few weeks ago. "Ray," he said, gripping a beer and flashing that easy smile. "Allison tells me you're into CrossFit." That was the first time I felt something strange, like a warning bell muffled by suburban normalcy. Now it made sense. That night, Allison came home around 10. Claimed she'd gone for a late drive after visiting her sister. She didn't know I'd been home. Didn't ask if I ate dinner. Just said she was tired and went straight to the shower. She didn't realize her hair was still damp when I saw her walk out of the bedroom. And I didn't say anything. Not yet. But I will. This was no ordinary Tuesday. It was the day my marriage caught fire. The smoke was thick, but I could see clearly now. And I wasn't going to pretend the house wasn't burning. I didn't confront her right away. Some part of me, the quieter, more cautious voice in my head, told me to wait. Not to act out of anger, but with clarity. That night, I slept on the couch. Told her I was sore from the gym, needed space to stretch. She nodded and went upstairs, probably relieved. The next day, I took off work. Installed a camera above the front porch and one in the garage, places Allison wouldn't think to look. I needed confirmation, something more than muffled voices and a gut feeling. I hated myself for going there, hated the idea of spying in my own home. But I needed to know. I couldn't keep living in limbo. It didn't take long. 2 days later, While I was supposedly at the gym, I sat in my car down the block and watched the footage in real time. At exactly 5:32 p.m., a familiar red truck pulled into the driveway. Ray. His stride was as casual as if he belonged here. She let him in like it was routine. That was it. The final ember that lit the firestorm in my chest. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I stayed at a buddy's place and tried to think. Not just about her, or him, but about me. Who I'd become in this marriage. I'd been so focused on being dependable, on keeping things running smoothly, that I didn't notice how much I was being erased. Maybe Allison didn't cheat because she was looking for excitement. Maybe she cheated because I stopped asking if she still felt seen. But I wasn't going to carry the blame for her betrayal. Saturday morning, I came home with a folder of printed photos and the video queued up on my laptop. Allison was in the kitchen, sipping coffee, scrolling her phone like it was any other day. "Hey," she said, without looking up. "We need to talk," I replied. My voice was calm. Too calm. She looked up then. Maybe it was the tone. Maybe it was the way I set the folder on the table. "What's this?" she asked. "Proof." The color drained from her face. I didn't shout. I didn't throw anything. I just pressed play. We watched Ray walk up our driveway, his hand grazing hers as she led him inside. No sound. Just video. The silence between us was louder than any screaming match could have been. She reached to pause it, but I stopped her. Let the whole thing run. When it ended, I didn't say a word. Just stood up and grabbed my bag. "You're leaving?" she asked, voice breaking. "No," I said, turning at the door. "You are?" She stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. "I've already called your sister. She's expecting you. I packed a bag for you. It's in the car." Allison didn't argue. Maybe she saw something in my face. Maybe she knew there was no coming back from this. She walked out without a word. Later that night, the silence in the house felt strange. Not painful. Not peaceful either. Just open. Like a wound starting to scab over. "It's been 3 weeks." She's said texts. A few voicemails, mostly filled with apologies and late-night regrets. I haven't responded. What do you say to someone who torched everything you built together? I still go to the gym. Still do leg day. But I've started running again, something I gave up years ago. Funny how betrayal becomes the thing that finally makes you move. The hardest part? It wasn't the affair. It was realizing that while I was trying to hold everything together, she'd already let go. Long before Ray. Long before the lies. Now it's just me. And that's okay. Because from the ashes, something new can grow. Maybe this time, it'll be something real.